What if the greatest obstacles in your spiritual growth are not your fears, not your doubts, not even your past, but the people you allow into your daily routine? What if the quiet sabotage you feel in your mind, your energy and your emotional clarity is coming from interactions so subtle you barely notice them happening? This question unsettles most people because it forces us to confront something uncomfortable. Not everyone around us is meant to walk with us. And the moment you begin to awaken, to sharpen your perception, to elevate your consciousness, you start to sense these invisible interferences more clearly than ever before. Think about it. Your routine is a sacred space. It shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your inner rhythm. Yet, without realizing it, you may be letting in people whose energy pulls you backward, people whose unresolved chaos spills into your life, people who disturb your clarity simply by being too close. And when this happens, you begin to lose your inner center. You feel drained for no reason. You question yourself more. You feel heavier, slower, less aligned with your own truth. It is not magic. It is not mystery. It is the influence of people who do not resonate with the path you are building. What makes this even more dangerous is that it rarely starts loudly. Sabotage begins in whispers. A dismissive comment that lingers in your mind. A subtle criticism disguised as concern. A conversation that leaves a trace of self-doubt. These small fractures slowly accumulate, and before you realize it, your spiritual clarity is dimmed by the presence of someone who was never meant to have such access to your inner world. You have felt this, haven't you? That strange pressure in your chest after talking to certain people. That invisible weight you carry after letting them close. And this is where awareness becomes essential, because understanding who enters your routine is not about judgment. It is about protection. It is about preserving the purity of your growth, the sharpness of your intuition, the strength of your emotional alignment. You deserve a life where your energy expands, not one where it is quietly taken from you. You have probably experienced moments like these yourself, so tell me in the comments if something in this resonates with your journey. And before we continue, take a moment to like this video and check if you are already subscribed, because what you are about to discover may shift the way you guard your daily life. And now, as we move deeper, notice how each layer of this understanding begins to reveal something even more profound about the people you allow near your inner space. As you begin to observe your daily interactions more closely, something subtle becomes evident. Emotional patterns from other people can merge with your own, so quietly that you mistake their turbulence for your thoughts. This is one of the hidden dangers of letting the wrong individuals into your routine. Their unresolved fears, their insecurities, their constant agitation start to blend into the atmosphere around you, and before long, you find yourself carrying emotions that never belonged to you in the first place. It begins with small shifts that seem harmless. A conversation that leaves you strangely unsettled, a moment of heaviness after spending time with someone who always expects more than they give, an unexplained anxiety that appears whenever their name lights up your phone. These signs are not random. They are traces of emotional overlap, signals that your inner space is being influenced in ways you have not consciously permitted. What makes this so dangerous is that it often passes unnoticed. You assume you are simply tired or distracted or going through a phase. Yet the truth is that some people operate like open containers of emotional chaos. When they enter your routine, they bring all their unprocessed turmoil with them, and without clear boundaries, that turmoil spills into you. You may start losing focus on your own goals because you are constantly managing the emotional residue they leave behind. Your mornings become heavier, your thoughts become clouded, and your inner clarity weakens because you are now navigating not only your own path, but the noise they bring into it. And the most subtle part of this process is how seamlessly it disguises itself as care, friendship, or familiarity. You tell yourself that they are simply going through something, that you should be supportive, that absorbing a little of their weight is the right thing to do. But as the days pass, you notice that your own inner voice becomes quieter, harder to hear beneath the influence of their constant emotional fluctuations. You begin to respond to life from a place that does not feel like yours. shaped by patterns that were never aligned with your spiritual growth. It does not happen loudly. It happens through repetition, through proximity, through the quiet erosion of your personal balance by people who may not even realize the impact they have on your inner world. As this influence settles deeper into your routine, something in your intuition starts to whisper that your energy is no longer fully your own, that the presence of certain individuals is reshaping your emotional landscape in ways that you can no longer overlook. And this awareness becomes the doorway to a crucial truth about how your inner state is affected by the company you keep. As this emotional interference quietly settles into your daily life, another layer of sabotage begins to unfold, the internal wear that accumulates when you coexist with the wrong energies for too long. This mechanism is subtle, almost invisible, because it does not strike all at once. Instead, it erodes you gradually, like water wearing down stone, until parts of your inner strength begin to feel thinner, more fragile, less certain. You start noticing a shift in your internal landscape. Tasks that once felt light begin to feel heavier. Ideas that once flowed easily now collide with invisible resistance. Your sense of direction, once so clear, starts to blur at the edges. It is not that you have lost your purpose. It is that someone else's energy has begun to interfere with the rhythm of your own. This erosion happens through constant exposure. When someone in your life is chaotic, pessimistic, manipulative, or emotionally unstable, their presence creates a steady pressure on your nervous system. Your body tenses more often. Your mind stays half alert, waiting for the next problem they will bring. Even when you are not speaking with them, a part of you carries the weight of their influence, as if their emotional state has become a second atmosphere you are forced to breathe. Over time, this strain translates into mental exhaustion, emotional confusion, and spiritual stagnation. It is as if your inner compass keeps trying to point toward your true north, but their energy repeatedly pulls the needle off course. What makes this mechanism even more dangerous is how easily it can disguise itself as normalcy. Humans adapt quickly, even to unhealthy environments. You tell yourself that this is just life, that everyone deals with difficult people, that feeling drained is simply part of being an adult. But beneath that rationalization, your intuition keeps nudging you, reminding you that something feels off, that your spirit is being weighed down in ways that do not align with who you are becoming. And that quiet discomfort grows louder each time you notice how much lighter you feel when certain people are absent from your day. Eventually, you begin to see the pattern. Your routine is being reshaped not by your own intentions, but by the emotional residue of those who take without giving, who demand without contributing, who exist in your life without considering the cost to your inner world. This recognition marks the moment when awareness begins to rise, guiding you toward understanding the first type of sabotaging person you must learn to identify. The first sabotaging presence you must learn to recognize is the person who relentlessly destroys your focus and clarity without ever appearing hostile. This individual often enters your routine disguised as someone harmless, friendly, or simply needing a little support. Yet every interaction with them fractures your mental space. They are the kind of person who constantly interrupts your flow, pulls your attention away from what truly matters, and fills your inner world with trivial noise that competes with your deeper intentions. Their conversations rarely carry meaning. Their demands are always urgent, yet never truly important. They create a subtle vortex around themselves, pulling your time, your thoughts, and your emotional energy into their orbit. This type of person thrives on distraction. They are unsettled within themselves, and instead of confronting their own lack of direction, they unconsciously disrupt the direction of others. You will notice that your thoughts become scattered after speaking with them, that your motivation weakens in their presence, and that the clarity you work so hard to cultivate dissolves into mental fog. They turn your routine into a fragmented landscape, filled with small interruptions that seem insignificant on the surface, but collectively rob you of your ability to stay aligned with your goals. What makes this form of sabotage so dangerous is its subtlety. They do not shout. They do not create dramatic chaos. Instead, they chip away at your focus through constant micro-distractions, slowly disconnecting you from the deeper levels of awareness you are trying to build. And because their behavior is not overtly harmful, you may hesitate to distance yourself. You may feel guilty for needing space. You may justify their interruptions as part of your responsibility to others. But the truth is that your focus is sacred. And anyone who repeatedly pulls you away from your own path is not meant to walk beside you. You begin to notice their effect most clearly when you step back, even briefly. Suddenly, your mind feels quieter. Your thoughts return to their natural rhythm. You feel a renewed sense of clarity, as if your inner world is finally allowed to breathe without external interference. This contrast reveals everything. The weight you carried was not yours, and the lack of focus you blamed on yourself was rooted in someone else's presence. And that realization becomes the doorway to deeper discernment about the people who influence your daily life. If this description reminds you of someone in your routine, share your experience in the comments. Your own insight may help others recognize what they have been feeling but could not yet name. As your awareness sharpens, you begin to see the next two sabotaging figures more clearly, the ones who drain your emotional and mental energy with a consistency that feels almost calculated, even when they do not intend to cause harm. These individuals often present themselves as vulnerable, overwhelmed, or constantly struggling, and while compassion is a natural response, prolonged closeness to them becomes a slow collapse of your inner balance. Their presence demands a level of emotional output that far exceeds what they are capable of giving, and over time, you unconsciously step into the role of emotional caretaker, even when it exhausts you. The first of these two is the constant victim, someone who frames every situation as something done against them, never something they might have contributed to. Their narratives drain you because they rewrite the world as a hostile place, one where nothing changes, nothing improves, and effort is meaningless. Listening to them repeatedly conditions you to expect disappointment, to anticipate failure, and to absorb a worldview rooted in helplessness. The weight of their stories settles into your internal space, subtly shifting your own emotional tone. Without realizing it, you begin carrying their hopelessness as if it were your own. The second is the chronic complainer, a person whose dissatisfaction bleeds into everything they encounter. Their lens is sharpened only to see flaws, and their words turn minor inconveniences into heavy emotional burdens. Spending time with someone like this transforms the atmosphere around you into one of constant tension. Their negativity spreads like a quiet fog, seeping into the edges of your thoughts until you start questioning your own progress, doubting your own capabilities, and feeling drained simply by being near them. These two personalities operate differently, yet both create the same internal effect: depletion. They take from your emotional reservoir without ever replenishing it, leaving you with a subtle exhaustion that you may mistakenly interpret as stress, fatigue, or lack of discipline. But as soon as you create distance from them, even briefly, the fog begins to lift. Your thoughts regain strength. Your emotional rhythm returns to its natural pace. You feel lighter, clearer, more connected to your own journey. Recognizing these energy-draining patterns is not an act of judgment, it is an act of spiritual protection. Your emotional space is not designed to be a reservoir for the unprocessed burdens of others, especially when those burdens overshadow your own growth. And once you become aware of how these individuals affect your internal landscape, you begin to understand the importance of guarding your energy with greater intention. As this understanding deepens, you begin to recognize another destructive presence that often hides behind kindness or familiarity. The person who subtly sabotages your boundaries and pulls you into cycles of self-blame and overextension. This fourth type does not disrupt your routine with chaos or negativity. Instead, they undermine you through quiet entitlement, expecting you to stretch yourself beyond what is healthy while offering very little in return. Their influence is not loud, but it is persistent, and it gradually reshapes the way you show up in your own life. This individual often relies on your empathy, your sense of responsibility, or your desire to maintain harmony. They ask for small favors that grow over time. They expect emotional support whenever they need it, yet rarely consider whether you have the capacity to give. They subtly imply that your boundaries are an inconvenience, that your needs are secondary, or that your desire for space is a sign of coldness rather than a natural expression of self-care. And slowly, without noticing when it began, you start bending yourself around their expectations. What makes this dynamic so harmful is how effortlessly it can turn inward. You begin questioning whether you are doing enough. You feel guilty for wanting distance. You may even start apologizing for things that do not require apologies at all. The internal pressure builds quietly, transforming your sense of self-worth into something fragile and dependent on how well you meet someone else's needs. Over time, this self-blame becomes a habit, a constant whisper in your mind telling you that you should give more, tolerate more, endure more. And yet the more you give, the more they take. This pattern erodes your spiritual and emotional foundation because it teaches you to abandon yourself in order to be accepted. Your energy becomes tied to external validation. Your peace becomes conditional. Your intuition becomes harder to hear because you are constantly navigating someone else's demands. And while this person may not intend to harm you, their inability to respect boundaries becomes a form of sabotage that leaves you depleted, uncertain, and disconnected from your own inner truth. The moment you step back, even slightly, the shift becomes undeniable. You feel a quiet relief. Your mind settles. Your emotional rhythm returns. And in that clarity you see how much of your energy was being consumed by the effort to maintain a balance that was never truly mutual. This awareness opens the path to deeper understanding, helping you recognize how easily your growth can be disrupted when someone repeatedly crosses lines you never meant to erase. As your awareness becomes sharper, the next sabotaging figure reveals itself. The person who quietly corrodes your self-esteem and distorts your perception of reality. This individual does not attack you directly. They do not shout, insult, or humiliate. Instead, they plant small seeds of doubt, subtle remarks that linger in your mind long after the conversation ends. A slight comment about your choices, a faint dismissal of your progress, a gentle questioning of your intuition. None of these actions seem harmful on their own, but together they create an atmosphere where you gradually stop trusting yourself. This type of person operates through micro-undermining. They cloak their criticism in concern, wrap their negativity in advice, and present their skepticism as wisdom. When you share your ideas, they highlight the risks. When you express enthusiasm, they point out what could go wrong. When you confide your dreams, they offer reminders of past failures. Their influence is subtle enough that you might mistake it for guidance, but the effect on your inner world is unmistakable. Your confidence slowly erodes, and your sense of direction becomes more fragile. What makes this so damaging is how deeply it embeds itself into your perception. Over time, you may begin questioning your decisions before you even make them. You replay their words in your mind, wondering whether they see something in you that you cannot see. Your inner voice grows quieter, overshadowed by the echoes of their doubts, and while they may not intend to harm you, the result is the same. Your belief in yourself becomes diluted by their constant undercurrent of discouragement. This form of sabotage is especially dangerous during moments of spiritual awakening or personal transformation. At those times, your intuition becomes your compass, your clarity becomes your anchor. But when someone close to you consistently challenges your perception, it becomes harder to stay aligned with your own truth. You begin to lose the natural confidence that once guided your decisions, replacing it with hesitation and second-guessing. Yet the contrast is sharp the moment you step away from their influence. Suddenly your thoughts feel lighter, your intuition grows louder, your inner clarity returns with surprising strength. Through this distance, you realize how much of your self-doubt was not yours, but theirs projected onto you. If you have ever felt your confidence diminish after spending time with someone, share your experience in the comments. Your voice may help others recognize what has been draining them in silence. As your perception becomes more refined, another sabotaging presence emerges with striking clarity, the person who quietly leads you to doubt your own spiritual direction. This sixth type is not overtly negative, nor are they necessarily disruptive in obvious ways. Instead, they anchor you to an outdated version of yourself, resisting or questioning every step you take toward growth. Their influence is subtle, yet powerful, because it targets the very core of your evolution, your expanding awareness, your intuitive insights, and your deepening sense of purpose. This person often responds to your transformation with discomfort. When you talk about new understandings, they dismiss them as overthinking. When you speak of inner shifts, they say you are being dramatic. When you set new boundaries or change your habits, they imply you are becoming distant or strange. Their reactions are not always malicious. Sometimes they stem from fear of losing the familiar version of you. But regardless of their intention, the effect is the same. You begin to question whether your growth is real or imagined. This dynamic becomes even more damaging when their doubt starts to echo inside your mind. Suddenly, the clarity you once felt so strongly begins to waver. You replay your choices, wondering if you are moving too fast, changing too much, or stepping too far from what others expect you to be. The spiritual awakening that once felt natural now feels complicated, heavy, tangled in external opinions that do not belong to your path. The danger of this type of sabotage is not loud resistance, it is subtle invalidation. They do not stop you through confrontation, but through gentle disbelief, through raised eyebrows, through comments that seem harmless but strike at your deepest unfolding. Over time, this influence can cause a quiet fracture within you, separating your intuition from your confidence. You feel pulled between who you are becoming and who others believe you should remain. Yet the truth reveals itself the moment you honor your inner voice again. When you step back from their influence, even for a short time, your clarity returns with surprising strength. You realize that your path has always made sense to you, even when others could not see it. The discomfort they express is not a reflection of your growth, but a mirror of their own limitations. And understanding this allows you to reclaim your direction without apology. This awareness does not require you to cut people out harshly. It simply invites you to protect the sacredness of your path, recognizing that not everyone can walk beside you when your spirit begins to evolve. As your spiritual sensitivity strengthens, something remarkable begins to happen. You develop the ability to recognize sabotaging patterns earlier and with far more precision. This intuitive clarity does not emerge from sudden enlightenment, but from the quiet accumulation of every moment you have felt drained, doubted, diminished, or redirected away from your true path. These experiences sharpen your internal compass, teaching you to sense imbalances long before they take root. What once felt confusing now reveals itself with unmistakable clarity. You start noticing subtle shifts in your body when certain people enter your space. Your breath changes, your posture tightens, your thoughts lose fluidity. These are early warning signals from your intuition, guiding you to pay attention before the emotional or spiritual impact deepens. Where you once ignored these sensations, now you recognize them as valuable messages about the energy you're allowing into your routine. And with each recognition, your awareness becomes more refined. You also begin observing patterns that were previously invisible. How your mood shifts after specific conversations, how your motivation fades when someone consistently doubts you, how your sense of peace dissolves when you engage with someone who thrives on conflict or negativity. These patterns form a map of energetic influence, helping you distinguish between those who nourish your growth and those who quietly restrict it. The more you listen, the clearer the contrast becomes. This heightened awareness is not about becoming suspicious or guarded. It is about becoming sovereign over your inner world. It teaches you that your emotional landscape is not a shared territory for anyone to occupy freely. It reminds you that your time, your energy, and your spiritual clarity are resources that deserve intention and protection. And once this understanding solidifies within you, you begin making different choices. You withdraw from conversations that no longer align with your values. You set boundaries without guilt. You distance yourself from patterns that dim your internal light. With every step, you become more attuned to the early signs of sabotage, a shift in tone, a pattern of inconsistency, a subtle disregard for your boundaries, a feeling of heaviness that appears without explanation. You recognize these markers not because you have become cynical, but because your intuition has become clean, strong, unobstructed by the noise of others. And through this clarity, you discover a deeper truth. Protecting your inner space is not an act of separation, it is an act of devotion to the person you are becoming. As your awareness matures, you discover that stepping away from sabotaging people is not an act of rejection, but an act of alignment. It is the moment when your inner world finally becomes quiet enough for you to hear yourself clearly again. And within that quiet, a powerful truth emerges. Your evolution depends not only on what you pursue, but also on what you no longer allow. Each boundary you set, each distance you create, each moment you choose yourself over the expectations of others becomes an affirmation of the path you are meant to walk. This clarity is not loud or dramatic. It settles slowly, like a dawn, rising inside you. You begin to notice that your thoughts move more freely, your emotions flow more naturally, and your intuition becomes unmistakably stronger. The weight you carried was never yours, and the moment it lifts, your spirit expands with surprising ease. Your routine, once cluttered with noise and interference, becomes a space where your purpose can breathe. And with this new space comes a renewed sense of direction, the kind that feels true not because someone affirmed it, but because your inner voice finally has room to speak. What unfolds next is not isolation, but refinement. You start attracting people who resonate with your growth rather than resist it. Conversations feel lighter, more meaningful. Your energy becomes steadier. Your decisions become clearer. You begin living from a place of self-trust rather than self-doubt, guided by the deeper awareness you have cultivated through every challenge and every awakening. The journey does not end here. It evolves, becoming more intentional with each step you take. And as we close this reflection, I want to speak directly to you. If this message resonated, allow yourself to acknowledge how far you have already come. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary. If you choose to continue walking this path with me, take a moment to subscribe so you do not lose the insights and guidance that support your growth. And if you reach the end of this video, leave a comment saying something like, "This message was for me, so I know this journey is unfolding inside you." If this conversation brought clarity, feel free to like the video as a way of strengthening the connection we have built today. There is another video here that deepens this understanding and expands on what you have just uncovered. When you are ready, click and continue your journey there, allowing your awareness to unfold layer by layer, exactly as it was meant to.